to all the speakers here that we have time allocated for you, and a buzzer will go on 5 minutes before your time is supposed to end, and a second buzzer will go. You're supposed to stop. Then we'll have an audience round where we'll take up some questions from the audience present over here, as well as from the audience participating online. So, and for all the people who are not speaking, you can kindly just put on your masks. So yes, starting with the session, our first speaker for the day is Mr. Gautham Krishnan. Gautham is a product and strategy leader at GamesKraft. He talks about attention economy, because in this age of attention deficit, when we are constantly bombarded with information, getting attention and building products around it is getting increasingly difficult. So Gautham talks about product-led growth through gamification. Welcome, Gautham, for his topic. Thank you.
Hello. Yep. Hi, everyone. So thanks for joining us today, both offline and online. Can you put the slides? Yeah. Oh, my bad. So yeah, I think thanks for introducing me. I'm Gautham Krishnan, VP of Products at GamesKraft. We are a gaming startup based out of Bangalore. So today, the topic that I want to cover is product-led growth through gamification. Now, why is product-led growth very important? So to understand this, I want to take you back a little bit, where CB Insights did a survey of 100 plus failed startups back in 2019. And a majority of them said that the reason why they failed is because the product was not up to the mark, or they couldn't find a product market fit, or the competitor built a better product than them, and or their products had issues when they launched it, right? So for any new enterprise or for even existing organizations, product has to be the center of all your growth initiatives. And unless you have a very strong and stable product, whether you have distribution, whether you have marketing budget, it is not going to make a difference in a longer period of time. So that being said, I want to take a quick show of hands where people would agree to this statement. So how many of you feel that when you pick up the phone to do something, you get distracted and start doing something else? Or you get distracted while using the phone and spend more time than you planned? So just a quick show of hands. So I think all of you agree to it. So why is this happening, right? This is the core essence of attention economy, which is that every product is designed to capture your attention. And every product in one way or the other have figured out that unless they have your attention, they won't be able to survive in the market. So why is it that products are after your attention, right? What products and people have come to realize is that the time is a scarce commodity now. Unlike how things were 5 years back, everybody just have 24 hours, whether you're wealthy or not wealthy, whether you are doing something else. I am not able to monetize your time, because unless I have your attention, you will not spend time on my product. And unless you have spent time on my product, I'll not get a share of your mind. And unless I have a share of your mind, I may not be presented with opportunities to monetize you at many different journeys as a user, right? So for example, let's say, you see an offer in an e-commerce product, right? You go and browse it on a particular day. But just because you did that action, it might be lingering in your mind that there is something that I can buy from this particular platform. And what that share of time have done is that it will trigger you another action, which will make you come back probably the next day, the next week, or while the sales is going on, to explore more as to what else is there that I can buy for a discount. And eventually, when a user comes multiple times, have multiple sessions or time spent per session, that will present an opportunity to the product to monetize the user using multiple different hooks. So this is the primary reason why every product is after your attention. Because if I'm able to grab your attention, I might be able to grab a share of your time. And if I'm able to grab a share of your time, I might be able to grab a share of your mind. And that will give me opportunities to monetize the user at multiple paths of the user journey. Now, the best example for this is when the CEO of Netflix, Reed Hastings, said that the biggest competitor of Netflix is not the other OTT platforms. It is your sleep. As a user, you have two choices every day. Whether you want to binge watch a new series that have come up, or you want to get some extra sleep, right? So the decision that a user takes at that particular point in time is how revenue monetization and retention and further recurring revenue happens in a product like Netflix. And this is equally applicable for almost all products. People are substituting their time to do certain activities. And how do you make sure that your product is the number one thing that is on top of their mind when they want to explore something? Now, so as a product manager, now how do we design a product to capture their attention and make him love what you're doing? This is the problem statement that each and every one of us face every day when we design something new. How do we think about go-to-market strategy? How do we think about acquisition as a primary lever? How do we think about retention, engagement, and eventual monetization? And this is where the product-led growth part comes into the picture. Product-led growth, as I mentioned earlier, is a methodology that positions product as the primary growth driver for any organization. And why should you do a product-led growth? Because it will help you acquire and retain users better, and it is also a defensible moat against any competitor action. Now, let me elaborate this a little bit. So, product-led growth does not mean that product managers take all the decisions in an organization. What it means is that every person or every team actually works towards solving a user need through the product rather than putting people to solve the problem. So, for example, let's say you have a SaaS product. How can you create a product which does not require any onboarding help from a sales representative or a customer support agent? How do you make sure that the acquisition or the payment process works seamlessly so that there is no intervention required by a customer support agent? These are the ways in which products actually manifest, or this is how it manifests in a product, where multiple different teams think about how the user experience can be elevated using the product as the primary center of your growth aspirations. And what that result is, typically your activation will be better, your acquisition will start moving up, your revenue and retention levers will also start moving up. And even if you have product market fit, you will see accelerated growth happening for the product. And how do you know it? Word of mouth. You look at all of these products that are listed here. Most of you would have started using these products just because one of your friend or colleagues said that, this is an amazing product, you should try it at least once. And once you try it, you figured out that, it's so seamless to use, it's so easy to onboard, and it is actually delivering value to you. And these are multiple different examples of various different products, starting from B2B to SaaS to B2C, which have actually built a product-led growth model and which has having competitive advantage over many other products that exist in the same space. So now, it looks like a very simple answer. What is the challenge here? As in, that, products have to capture the attention of the user. You know that it has to be a product-led growth. So why is it challenging now, even now for growth, right? So unlike 5 years back, when people had a lot of spare time, nowadays we don't have time. We are all busy in our lives. And there are products which are product-led growth and which cater to the same user persona with a better solution than what you may have all the time. There are multiple different competitors. There is not just a single product solving a single problem for a single user persona. So you will find competitors in all the spaces. And this is where the challenge is. Even if you have a product-led growth, you just cannot differentiate enough to capture the attention of the user. And this is where you need to think like a user. As a user, how do you decide where to spend your time? Most of the time, you decide where to spend your time based on how familiar you are with the product or how fun it is to be with, right? So you don't want anything that is complex. You don't want your cognitive load to increase just by using a product. You want familiar situations, and you want products to be enjoyable rather than purely transactional in nature, where you may just think about it as, I will use it when I need it, right? So this is where you need to think like a user, and users are looking for familiarity and having fun when they typically use products nowadays. So this is also where gamification helps, right? Gamification typically have two layers. One is the interaction layer, and the second is the transaction layer. So the transaction layer is where the user actually find the value of the product, whereas the interaction layer is where the user finds an emotional connect, which helps him, get a sense of winning, get him sense of joy, make him feel accomplished, give him recognition, all of those things. And when these two layers start working very well, that is when you will start seeing magic happens. So let's look at some of these gamified products, right? So I've put specific examples from an Indian ecosystem also. So if you think about health, you have a typical pedometer. So Google Fit is still a gamified product, but I would say it is still less gamified compared to Steps at Go, which is an Indian startup, and Pokemon Go, which is a game in itself, right? So one of the biggest challenges, we all set our target saying that we need to walk 10,000 steps every day. But how many of you actually complete it, right? It is a humongous task, and you don't feel motivated to do it. And that is where gamification helps. So if you look at the app called Steps at Go, or if you look at the game called Pokemon Go, I'll just briefly talk about it. Steps at Go has made the entire process of doing 10,000 steps a game, which means that there is milestones, there is reward, there are leaderboards, there are leagues in which you can compete, and you can achieve certain things. So when you're thinking about achieving something like this, which is earning a currency, redeeming it, achieving certain milestones, levels, badges, you stop thinking about the 10,000 steps, and you get the motivation to complete it. And before you know it, you would have done the 10,000 steps every day. Similarly, Pokemon Go is a game that was developed probably 5 years back. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with it. But Pokemon Go is an augmented reality game where you had to open your phone and start hunting for Pokemons around your premises. But you won't find Pokemons just around you. You have to physically move around and find Pokemons hidden somewhere. It might be on the street, it might be behind a flower. You need to keep scanning your phone around it. And what people have seen is that people who played Pokemon Go had almost 60% more activity than somebody they were not doing it before. So is Pokemon Go actually a fitness app, or is it a game, right? So this is how products are manifesting now itself, which is also able to capture users' attention. Similarly, in social media, you have Facebook, which is the granddaddy of all the social media platforms. But if you look at the new age Snapchat and Chingari, apps like Chingari, this is where the new age population is. Because why are they using this? Because it is a lot more gamified version. In Snapchat, there is a streak, there are snap counters that you get. In apps like Chingari, every initiative or every time you spend, every comment that you make is incentivized with Gari coins, right? So they have gamified the whole thing out of it. Now, if you look at financial products or lending products, you have Cred, you have a product called GetJar, which is an investment product which is micro-sized and gamified. StockGrow is there. In e-commerce, you have Amazon. You get what you want. You can return whenever you don't like a product. But the next level thinking of that is, let's say, Flipkart and Pinduoduo. And in education, you know that Duolingo is the #1 app for a very long period of time. Because Duolingo doesn't feel like you're learning a new language, which is a very difficult task. It feels like a game. So how can we gamify any product? We can gamify any product by looking at what is the business objective that we want to achieve. What are the targeted behaviors that we need to get in the user? If it is UPI payment, you want the user to make a UPI payment in the simplest possible manner. You identify the user personas or the cohorts and define what is the activity loop for it. So the biggest call out that I want to do here is the typical product management or any mindset is you think about user journeys as a linear process, which is starting here and ending here as a funnel. But the biggest change that you need to do is that it is not an end. You need to create a hook at the end of that journey so that the next journey of the user is triggered at the end of it. And So always think about user journeys in loops and see what is the trigger or the hook that you can give, which will make the user come back again. So to summarize, every product is trying to capture your time in the attention economy. Capturing your time is getting increasingly difficult because for the same problem statement, for the same user, there are multiple different competing apps. A product-led growth with gamification can help you differentiate in the marketplace. And gamification does not mean that you have to compromise on the functional needs or the business metrics. And I believe that the best version of every consumer product app is something that is intrinsically gamified. Thank you. So,
Thank you, Gautham. Thank you for that insightful session on gamification. So, any questions from the audience present over here? Yes. What's your name, ma'am?
Hi, my name is Aparna and I'm from Milestone. So
Okay.
very great presentation, lovely thoughts. Now, I have a question. Some of the examples that you have given here are of course things of what you would do in your free time or something of, let's say, personal improvement, things like that. How can we also apply this in my context, let's say, encouraging customers to self-serve to build websites, or let's say something boring like tax filing? So does it also apply to things like that? It's purely, let's say, free time things.
no. So I think the essence is that you need to define what is the business objective, right? So for example, let's say the tax filing, let's take that as an example, right? Why do people find it so difficult to do tax filing? Right? As in, I'm just saying that, can we think about gamifying that whole process? So for example, how do gamification thinks about it? We'll say that, these are the 10 milestones that you want to do, right? Or you need to break it down into smaller steps so that it doesn't become a very tedious process from a mindset standpoint. Can we break it down into smaller steps over a multiple period standpoint, right? Can you incentivize users to file taxes much before the deadline happens, right? So there are multiple ways in which we can think about problem statements in terms of how to incentivize it. So for example, while, I was just hearing about NASCOM product skills community also, there is a target of 50,000 product managers there, right? So this is a game, we already have a mission to achieve. And, this entire initiative itself can be gamified if you really think about it, right? So I don't think that anything is beyond gamification. The only thing is that we need to spend enough time to understand the user personas and the user needs in a much simpler and clearer fashion, so that we need to create what are the activity loops that will help the user achieve whatever his objectives in a much better fashion, right? That's how I would put it. I hope it answers.
Hi. Okay, Gautam. And we have several questions online also. In the interest of time, we'll just take one online question also.
Sure.
So how do you use gamified approach in a more formal B2B product setting? This is by Shraddha.
Correct. So I think one of the products, if I remember correctly, is box.com. So you can check it out. I don't remember exactly whether that is it. So they have gamified the entire onboarding part of it, right? So one of the biggest challenges of any SaaS product is that people sign up, but they don't see the value of the product because they don't use it sufficiently enough. And that entire activation phase where you give 15 days free trial usage, how do you engage the user during that 15 days of free trial to make sure that at the end of 15 days, the user clearly understands the value of the product, right? That should be the goal of, let's say, gamification in a, I'm just saying a specific context of, let's say, onboarding as an example, right?
Okay, yeah. I think Shraddha would have got some insight into her query. So I think our time is over. And thank you so much, Gautam, for your
Thank you, everyone.
very nice insights into gamification. So the next session that we have is a very interesting one. So we got a lot of queries.
Really think about it, right? So I don't think that anything is beyond gamification. The only thing is that we need to spend enough time to understand the user personas and the user needs in a much simpler and clearer fashion, so that we need to create what are the activity loops that will help the user achieve whatever his objectives in a much better fashion, right? That's how I would put it. I hope it answers.
Okay, Gautam. And yeah, we have several questions online also. In the interest of time, we'll just take one online question also.
Sure, sure.
So how do you use gamified approach in a more formal B2B product setting? This is by Shraddha.
Correct. So I think one of the products, if I remember correctly, is box.com. So you can check it out. I don't remember exactly whether that is it. So they have gamified the entire onboarding part of it, right? So one of the biggest challenges of any SaaS product is that people sign up, but they don't see the value of the product because they don't use it sufficiently enough. And that entire activation phase where you give 15 days free trial usage, how do you engage the user during that 15 days of free trial to make sure that at the end of 15 days, the user clearly understands the value of the product, right? That should be the goal of, let's say, gamification in a, I'm just saying a specific context of, let's say, onboarding as an example, right?
Okay, yeah. I think Shraddha would have got some insight into her query. So I think our time is over. And thank you
Alright.
so much, Gautam, for your
Thank you, everyone.
very nice insights into gamification.